energy from the day from people, but we could clear the space from where we just were in trying to get on. I love the energy that some people were frustrated and dealing with that. Many people were just, we're going to do this until we can do this. So I appreciate that immensely. And I think everybody appreciated the humor of what was being done. So if everybody can just take a deep breath and clear the space, whatever went before, and be present right here, right now. Try not to do too many things at once and multitasking. And I'll give that to myself too, because Heather has landed in a new place, a new hotel, as I like to call it, and I'm trying to work up setting up her phone, so I've put that aside for now. The next thing I wanted to do was just have everybody set the intention for the call. The whole idea, from my perspective of this call, is to be expansive and to focus on, as Heather says, the big, big, big outcome. So what is coming next? Not where Heather is next in a new hotel facility, not when Heather is getting to Randy in Tennessee, not when they're having their court hearing and all those kinds of things, but what's beyond that. And I think one of the ways to help us set that intention and to clear that focus for ourselves is to understand that our perceptions color our perspective. So when we're looking at something, whether it's on the judicial system, which people have seen a lot of lately, and believe me, even the things that you think are big news and learning about right now are just a few snowflakes on the iceberg that is the judicial system, so, or the purported judicial system. So keep in mind when you're looking at something, when you're hearing information, when you're discovering things, when you're having a conversation, that where your starting point is, where your thought of how things work in life and how we've all been indoctrinated and trained and schooled and all that, of how this false construct is. So when you hear things and encounter things, think about that. Just stop for a minute and let yourself reframe everything in a more expansive way and understand and really try to integrate that the systems, the entities, the subjects, you can pick any subject, any structure, any business, any system model, whether education or financial or judicial or government or medicine or you name it, the list is really long. It's all been a lie. It's all been a fallacy. It's all been an illusion, with maybe about 20% real, kind of, and most of the rest, 80%, has been backwards or illusory. So it's really helpful if you can come from that point when you're pulling back the curtain. And when you pull back the curtain and you see these things, I've talked to a lot of people, they say, well, that's not fair, or that's really upsetting, or they'll go off and get, you know, really pissed off about these things. And that's fine, you know, because that's your reaction, that's what you're feeling to do, and that's what you're having, and that's perfectly valid. What's really important, because things are going to move even faster in the next 2 or 3 days and jump into hyperspace. We really have been moving slowly, even though we think we've been moving fast, and we're going to jump even faster. So it's really important to, if you feel that within yourself, to integrate the new things, the new thunks that come up, like, oh my gosh, oh wow, I didn't, you know, all those things. Integrate it, feel what you're going to feel, and then move through those feelings and integrate them, and then move on to the next step. And that will help you pull back the curtain. And one other thing I just wanted to start with is to understand that depending on where everybody is with their perspective of how life works, that you're not just a physical flesh and blood person that gets born and you do all the things in life and then you die, that it's much broader than that. Because it's not just people on this call right this minute, it's people who will be listening to this planet-wide. So it's really important to understand that when you might frame something as being woo-woo, or that's just spiritual, or I was raised in X religious faith and that's not my beliefs, and all those kinds of things, that those are all constructs. Those are all programs, if you will, that have been given to us very artfully in a quite a brilliant and complex and beautiful way. And everybody's been playing their role in a very sublime, expansive way. So if you understand that and you realize that anything that you label as woo-woo or label as something that's outside of your scope of understanding right this moment, and then you turn and you look at whatever you're naming them, the powers that were, or the cabal, or the elite, or the families, or whatever it is, the controllers or the facilitators of this construct, they know very well and they understand very clearly, and they're fluent in all what one might label woo-woo and all these kinds of things, and they use it to their advantage. And so when you have that reaction, that's exactly the reaction that they want you to have. So I think the name of the playing game that I'd like to see us all play in tonight is to be expansive and to focus on what are the outcomes that we're creating. Each one of us is incredibly powerful, which we just saw illustrated because the other call with 580 people on it did not want to have happen, because the energy there would have been off the charts. This will be great too, and we'll expand in a whole new way. But make no mistake, every single being is brilliant, and they are creating our new future right this moment, and we choose that outcome. And how we hold ourselves and how we hold the expansion of what we're feeling into and creating individually, collectively, and then in coordinated cooperation amongst, you know, smaller groups like this of a couple hundred, a couple thousand, whatever it is, and then so on. We change and shift what that outcome is. So we change and shift what's happening in Heather and Randy's journey. We change and we shift what's happening with the solar eclipse. We're changing all of those things. And what do we want to change them to? And be mindful of that and set your intention for that.
I'm sorry, BZ, did I mute you? There was somebody that I was trying to mute, and I may have accidentally muted you, and I can't find you anywhere. You should be able to unmute yourself, though.
There. Okay. There we go.
There you go.
This is fun. If you haven't already, there were some updates from Heather just on the Treasury direct deposit accounts, which is what they're apparently officially called. So people, it's always best for people to do what they feel moved to do. And I'm a firm believer and a firm knower of each person is their own expert. So they can look at other people, they can hear different things, but use your own resonance of what works for you. And that for you is the answer. It's what's important for you. Having said that, my thought on what needs to be done vis-a-vis, you know, paperwork and all that kind of stuff. And Bob, I love how you keep saying, just keep it simple. We make it too complicated, and we do. But I just wanted to confirm with Heather, since I did have a chance to do it via email. And again, she reiterates, and I'll just read it here, that if one reads the perpetuity, which was filed in 2000, that they will clearly see that Charlie duly secured and perfected ownership, title, and authority of all identifiers, including of BC, SSN, and every other part that you can think of, simultaneously excluding them from bankruptcies and etc. The amendments to the perpetuity filing clearly and duly stated, secured, and perfected the same for every being in existence. So when people say, does it work here, does it work there? If you're a being and you're in existence, you're covered. And the only thing you need to do, if you choose to do that, is to complete your own factualized trust. And it has all of the, it's a file of 287 pages. You don't need all that. You just need the factualized trust. And that has everything in it. And it points to everything, and it's all a matter of law. In fact, it is the law. So just to clear up that thought there. Anything you want to add to that, Bob?
Well, there's an awful lot I want to talk about, especially when you're and I just wanted to give you the platform since it was your forum. But when we were talking, as you were talking about the former controllers and everything, and if you're going to be, if you're calling here to figure out what to do with your reversals, this is probably the wrong call. We're not going to talk about how to access the TDAs and about routing numbers or anything like that. I really want to help people to see the big picture, the really big picture, because a lot of people are really concerned, and I can understand why so, but it's so not about money. It is so not about money. The financial aspect is part of the slavery system, and it's one of the components that we are trying to get out of, one of the many components of the matrix. But if it's really important for people to understand how we got here, and who we really are. There's nothing that happened to us. We are here because we agreed to be here. And for those who don't remember, there's a lot of disclosure, or closure, as Heather would say, that needs to be done so that everyone can understand all absolute data in full context. First off, I want to, whoever is sharing their screen, please stop that. Okay, I'm back. Can everyone hear me?
Yep, you're doing great.
Okay. It's really important for all of us to have absolute data on the table, and so that we can get a complete context. Now, I understand that a lot of people, they look at our situation and they feel as though they've been taken advantage of in some way. And I'm getting feedback now. I'm going to mute everyone. And I can understand how people could feel that way. But I want to put some things into a little bit of context for you. How did we get here? I want you to look at that asteroid belt. I want you to look at the surface of Mars. I want you to look at the surface of Venus. For those of you who could remember Sirius B, that was us. All of us. That destruction didn't happen by itself. Do you understand where your heritage came from? How did we get to this point? Why are you, quote unquote, in a quarantine planet? It's not like you are innocent, and I'm not trying to make all of us feel guilty, but when we talk about taking 100% full responsibility, that's why we're here. We are all of us, those who are the controllers and those who are the controlled, are all here taking 100% responsibility for all of the actions that we've taken. And we've caused a lot of havoc throughout this galaxy. Those Orion Wars that Star Wars was writing, that was no joke. Those things are our responsibility. So when we start thinking and looking at ourselves as the victim, you will be trapped in this matrix forever.
There's a new way to get into it.
Who is that? BZ?
No, it was me.
I heard a voice. I didn't know where it came from.
No, it wasn't me. I'm on mute.
Okay. So each and every one of us have really got to, you know, when I was talking, if you haven't seen the conversation that we had with Judy and Jalila and Valerie, one of the key points in order to get out of the matrix is understanding and developing compassion, not just for yourselves, but those would-be controllers. Because I'll tell you what, out of all of this, they had the hardest job. Absolutely, without a doubt, without question, they had the hardest job. And it's important for everyone to understand that. To take the position and to play the role that they're playing on your behalf is not an easy thing to do. It is not an easy thing to disconnect yourself and separate yourself to that severity, which is what was necessary. Because as a race, each and every one of us have full range of emotion, which requires absolute control. You understand? If you don't, this whole game that we're playing is a game of integration of the light and the dark. Without the dark, you can't see the light. And it is extremely important for people to understand the value of the dark. And a lot of people are missing it. They see only love and light. Love and light, you will stay in the matrix forever until you learn to integrate. And that is why we are all here. There is no blame. There is no fault. There is no victimization going on this planet. Everything is perfectly done, and everything is here for a reason. That having been said, here we are at the end of the game. Because there have been enough of you, and thank goodness for my awakened brothers and sisters who have figured that out. Who have figured out that compassion is the only way out. Compassion is the only way out of the matrix. And in order to truly have compassion, in order to truly have real compassion, and compassion means feeling together, feeling what the other feels. You have to understand what it means to suffer. Because without that understanding, without that experience, there is no compassion. We have taken a journey for many, many years. And for the first time, we have come to the point of fully integrating polarity, darkness and light. We've tried many, many times and failed many, many times. This time, we will not fail. We will not fail. So when we talk about what's going on right now with Heather and Randy and the TDAs, I want you to put that in a larger perspective, because as we talked about on the last call that I had with Judy and Jalila, in order for Heather to do what she did, she had to do it from the inside. And I'm sure that a lot of the Parker Stills and everything still hold a lot of resentment and feel betrayed because this was done by one of their own. So when she's sitting there in front of these judges and things, you know, without holding that neutral space, without holding the compassion, she would have been ripped apart. but she's holding that space for all of humanity. And God bless her for it. Because what is happening right now is not happening to one person. It's happening to all of us. And for all of us to truly, truly take 100% responsibility, we have to take responsibility for all of it. All of what we've done, all of what we've been through. You know, we have, and yes, we have suffered a lot or perceived suffering. We understand what compassion is now. And it's now time to exercise it. True compassion, which means being grateful for all of our experience, for being grateful for all of the players in our experience, villains, heroes, all of it, because it would not have been possible without everyone doing their part. And that's how we're going to get out of this matrix, by everyone playing their part. Now, there's certain things that a lot of you may not remember from previous lifetimes, and a lot of you actually are remembering in your own way. Everybody's kind of awakening that we have a heritage and a history that is extremely, extremely rich. And it's not all been terrible, bad things. We've had some amazing accomplishments and have rightfully gained our place in the galaxy. But before that can happen, before we can actually go back out there, and before this this matrix and this frequency fence is completely abandoned, we have to be completely in line. We have to, there are certain steps, as Jalila talked about getting out of the matrix. There's certain things that are necessary. You must reclaim your sovereignty. And I'm not talking about sovereign citizens and all that other bullshit. I'm talking about reclaiming your true sovereignty. And that involves taking 100% responsibility for your life, for your being, for your finances, for your mind, body, and spirit. And this is something that all of us can do. We are all positioned right now to do this. How did I become an expert on the matrix? I've lived in it and been in it and helped create it, as all of you did. All of us created the matrix. There is no participant present that didn't play a hand in it. So, you know, whether you realize it or not, you are all experts of the matrix. You are all children of the matrix, co-creators of the matrix, all of us. And because we are the co-creators of the matrix, it is our responsibility to bring the matrix down. That's why we're here. That's what a lot of you have been feeling in this pull. This is part of your mission. This didn't happen by accident. So when we talk about the really big picture, it's so much more than just TDA accounts. That's a mechanism and a tool that we're going to use to make certain corrections and to bring about the world that the well-integrated world, where we can transmute all energies of the universe into oneness, into harmony. And there is no greater expert in the universe right now than those who are dwelling on Earth. This is the whole reason we came here. This is the whole reason we're playing this game. And the game, as I said, is now coming to an end. So for all of you who are following Heather's case. I really hope that you're not looking at either Heather or Randy. We feel for them and we hold space for them, and we give them strength to do what they have agreed to do, whether consciously or unconsciously, because they are representing all of us. They are representing all of us. BZ, did you want to add anything to what? I don't want to hog the floor.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Again, it goes back to what I was saying before. I think a simple way, it's such a huge subject. I mean, you could, as you know, Bob, you could pick any one piece and hours and hours of discussion would not even scratch the surface. So when I was sitting down and thinking about this call, and Heather and I had talked a lot about, you know, the bigger outcomes and everything, I think one thing that's really helpful for people is to start with the idea that everything that you know, everything that you thought, because what happens is people say, well, what about this or what about that? So think about any subject. I'll just throw a few out. Science, politics, religion, medicine, government, education, all of that kind of stuff. Where you got here, that we're the only ones alive in the universe, we're the only intelligent beings, all that kind of stuff. And you just need to take it and go, okay, those were stories that I was told, and I'm going to set them aside for a few minutes. Then tune in with yourself and listen to yourself breathe, hear your heartbeat, and with your heart as the brain function, not your head, tune into that. And you will discover very quickly, because the energies are moving very fast now and they're expanding very fast, you will feel, when you feel your pulse beat, when you feel your heartbeat, when you feel yourself actually breathing, that there is much more to you than the story that you have been told. So hold that space and then think, okay, think of the most amazing, we'll just use this for a minute. Think of the most amazing producer, writer, director, someone who writes amazing books that you love. The characters are rich and everything is there. There's quote unquote good characters and bad characters and evil and nasty and wonderful and all that kind of stuff. So you are that author. You have that amazing power to craft these words on paper that you go into, and you're there. You can hear the sounds, you can hear the accent in someone's voice that they're speaking, all of that. And use that as the metaphor to start to understand who you are and what's happening. You are this amazing, not only the character, but the writer and the director and the producer and whatever, you know, a painter, whatever medium you want to use to help you fulfill that picture, that word picture for yourself. You are that. And Bob and myself and everyone else on this call, everyone listening to this call are that as well. And we co-create together. So hold that for a space and then just look a little bit at the existing reality of where we are. It's 2017, it's August 18th. We have, you know, we think we have to pay taxes. We think we have friends called Heather and Randy in jail and all these kinds of things. And know that that's part of the last scenes in this play. And I think if you can hold it more from a new story that you're telling yourself, it's a little easier to wrap your heart and your head around, because it's a big, if this is all new to you, take a deep breath, because Bob and I and everybody else just scratching the surface for you. So there's lots of specifics to all of this. What I found the easiest for me years and years and years and years ago, when I was really, the light was shining, I don't know, probably 30, 40 years ago, was I would look at something and I would read something and I would resonate. And I finally had the epiphany moment that you can't be half pregnant. So what you're reading and what you're sensing and what you're hearing
sorry, BZ. I forget that.
That's okay. What you're hearing and what you're seeing, what resonates with you, you're saying that you believe to be true. So in this epiphany moment that I had, I said to myself, I either know that it's true or it's not true. And if I know that it's true because I say that it's true and I'm acting that it's true and I'm expanding myself that it's true, then it's true no matter where I look. So I'm either a creator being or I'm not. I'm either creating all of this and co-creating all of this or I'm not. I can't be half pregnant about it. I cannot say, well, when I think I like something, yeah, I'm a creator being and I'm amazing. And when I don't like it, I can't say, well, no, that doesn't really work. You have to get into a place where you can really feel into that. And when you do that, then when you look at something that's upsetting or frustrating or difficult or hard or whatever adjective, verb, whatever you want to put on that, you just take a deep breath and go back to your own true north about what that is. Because each individual subject doesn't matter so much as your place in it, your feeling of it. Hopefully that'll help a little bit with people figuring it out.
Thank you. Jalela, if you're on the line, I'm going to unmute your phone for you. And for those of you who don't know who Jalela is, she was one of the ones that were on the call a couple days ago. And probably one of the best experts I know on polarity integration. Can you explain a little bit from your perspective, Jalela, the game that we've been playing all this time?
Sure. Thanks for inviting me on. This is pretty amazing. Boy, being on that other line, that was crazy over there. They were screaming, crazy. Where's the moderator? I was like, okay, something happened here. They hijacked this call. They did. But, you know, they're not stopping us. That's awesome.
No, they won't.
Okay. And basically, I've never met you, but thank you for pulling this all together and being there for Heather. And you're just an amazing lady. Okay. Polarity integration. All right. Polarity integration is the integration of light and dark in all of its forms. And there, let me back up a little bit, kind of give you a better explanation. As I understand it, the way it was explained to me by the beings that contacted me back in 1993 and began training me for this work, they are time travelers, time healers. They're ninth dimensional. And they've seen this game pretty much all the way through. And the way they explained it is that there are multiple universes, and each universe plays a game for the souls in that universe to be able to evolve. And you know, as we know, we always learn best through games. So in this universe, the game that was chosen was the integration of light and dark in all of its aspects, which is called polarity integration. And so love is one polarity, fear is the other, or light and dark, chocolate and vanilla. And the middle ground is what they call the null zone. It's where all polarity gets zeroed out. And it's not like a straight line, it's like a triangle with the point being the null zone. So as creator gods and goddesses, which I understand we are, what we are doing is going through an evolutionary process in this game through multiple dimensions, on multiple timelines, and we're exploring our creative powers. So we will create dramas, if you will, and then we will create a plan around that drama, and then we will get some guidance, and we will formulate the rest of our plan or a life blueprint, and then we will hop into a lifetime, into a physical form, and we will play out that game. We'll play out that blueprint and those dramas. But sometimes we get stuck. We create such masterful dramas that we get in there and we can't remember how to get out. So we'll have to spend lifetimes trying to get out of the same drama. After we pass on, we'll go back and go, okay, well, I made that far, but I hit a wall and I couldn't finish. And so you'll ask other souls to play with you again in the next lifetime, the next lifetime. And some of those roles that they will play will be quote unquote dark roles for you, meaning that they will have to be the oppressors. They will have to be the perpetrators. But in each one of those situations, their job is to mirror back to you the part of you that hasn't been integrated, that you're trying to integrate. So sometimes it'll be your parents, and you will write the script for them to play. And if that means they have to become an alcoholic or they have to become an abuser of some type, you've written that script for them, because what you want to learn is this is how you treat yourself. You know, maybe in lifetime after lifetime, you're really big about beating up on yourself, about being a perfectionist. How could I be that stupid? How could I be that dumb? And so you'll choose a parent who will mimic that for you, and they'll tell you those things as a child. So people go, why would I choose to do that? Why would I choose to have a parent do that to me? It's real simple. If you're going to work on an issue and you come to Earth and the agreement is that you forget that you have this plan because you don't want a cheat sheet, you got to figure it out once you get here, but you'll have guidance. You have your higher self and all your guides helping you. Then you got to have somebody to recreate the situations that you're trying to work on. And so the primary people that will work on your deepest core issues will be the people who end up being your caregivers, whether you grow up with two parents, one parent, foster parents, or, you know, in an orphanage. The primary caregivers will be the ones that you will script roles for. So what this is saying is, in polarity integration, if you understand that from a higher perspective, that everything that happens, you created. You can't, like Beezy said, you can't be half pregnant. You either are a creator or you're not. If you're a creator, you got to be responsible for everything that you create. Not part of it, all of it. The key is getting to the level of consciousness where you can remember that, where you can go, okay, that sucks, but all right, whine a bit, have your pity party, and then you got to go to the higher perspective and go, why did I create that? Why did I choose that situation? And once you figure that out, you reclaim the part of you, you reclaim your power from it. You're no longer the victim, and you turn around and you can thank them. So that is kind of where we are right now in this game. Many of us have been around this block many times. We've destroyed worlds trying to do this. And so now we're here at the third Earth, the third attempt at polarity integration and ending the game. This is the third time to try to end the game. We're finally getting it. Third time's a charm. But what we learned in the past, there are things that you have to do to get out of the game. There's three things you've got to accomplish. Number one, you've got to spiritually release yourself by learning how to achieve real compassion. Not the compassion they teach you in 3D, because that's a trap. That's mercy. It's not real compassion. There's a difference. Number two, you've got to take back your physical sovereignty and your financial sovereignty, because one of the ways that if you end up in an Orion slave colony, which they try to turn Earth into, which was part of the plan for a grand experiment, they're going to become, just to say it this way, custodians of all three aspects: your mind, your body, your finances. And you will have to claim all three of them back. And as you do so, you can only succeed by achieving that consciousness of compassion, because that's the null zone. You nullify out everything. That's like Neo, and the bullets don't become real. When you're in the null zone, nothing can hurt you because you're not attracting any polarity. Does that make sense? So that's where we are.
That makes perfect sense. And just so you understand, and this was explained to me by Heather, these TDA accounts, they're actually what she called zero accounts. So there's nothing actually coming out of these accounts. whatever charge gets put on them immediately gets nullified.
Right.
It's like
And the reason I chose, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's a non-depletion account. If anybody's, used to financial terms, it's a non-depletion account. So this is a very low number, but say there's 500,000 in the account and you spend 499,000 and you check the balance, it's 500,000. So these are in that,
right.
You heard Heather's joke, which she wasn't joking. She was absolutely serious, but we laughed about it, that her hourly rate, is $2.6 quadrillion an hour. Well, she's not kidding. So that's the thing that's really important too. When people get a little frustrated, they have and I understand why, they have the hope of, okay, finally I can pay off my debts and all that kind of stuff. And again, that's the trap that we're in right now, that the mind blank, this begins with an F, that has been, that we all agreed to have put on ourselves, to hold it that way. And when you think, well, I want to pay off my debts, or I want to buy a car, and then some people say, well, maybe you shouldn't spend your money, all those shoulds come out. And that's actually a good thing, because until all those shoulds and you can't and the this and am I allowed and I want to and all that kind of stuff comes out, you can't integrate it. And you can't go where you want to go. People need to understand you cannot go where you want to go. The most amazing, delicious place that you can go, that you can create, that you can think about, has nothing on where you actually have already created to go. The most delicious has nothing. It's bland, but you can't go there until you can integrate these things. So when you're thinking about paying off things or spending money, or how do I know how much is in my account, I can tell you that you can't write that many zeros and commas. You just don't know how to do it. You're not capable of writing that many commas and zeros. That's, suffice to say, that's the answer to how much is in that account. Why? How do I know that? Well, Bob and Jalila have just said it. The value is you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go work at a job. It's you. You're a creator being. You're the source of all that is. Do you think the source of all that is, he, she, it, has a limit on their abundance? No. And that's who you are. So let that go. Do I have enough? Can I pay this? Just let it go. Just know that whatever you want to do, whatever you feel to do, you can do. And you'll learn very, very quickly. Some people it will take a nanosecond, if that long, and some people it will take longer to realize, to truly integrate that money means nothing, and this means I can have absolute abundance, which is to be what I want to do what I want to do forever, how long, with whomever, in however ways that I don't remember on this physical body on the planet right now how to even do that. And I can do that, harm none. The quantum isn't even the limit.
And as far as the balance of our accounts, the balance of your account's always zero. That's what Heather explained to me. The balance of those accounts are always zero. No matter what kind of charge you put on it, it's just going to bring it back to neutrality. It's going to bring it back. It's a zero account. So you can't put anything into it, and anything that you do charge onto it is immediately going to get zeroed out. Because our monetary system currently right now, the reason why all of the bills get paid is because all of our monetary system is based on debt right now. Every single dollar bill that you have is an instrument of debt. So when you put a negative charge onto a balanced, it's immediately going to cancel it out, as if that charge never existed. So you're literally zeroing out all debt because you are a positive charge. And so the two never really mix. One's going to, and it's always going to be zero. So you always have a balanced account. And this is the same point when I believe when Jalela's talking about, because we are the value, that is that same point of neutrality that we have to develop within ourselves, within our beings. Each and every one of us has the ability to balance or zero out any energy that comes towards us, no matter how positive or negative we perceive it. Does this make sense?
I'd like to take that one step further.
Go ahead.
If I may. Thank you. We could stop this entire game in 1 nanosecond. 1 nanosecond. You know what it would take? It would take everybody flipping from being a victim, blaming the dark, the cabal, whatever, to taking full ownership of themselves and choosing to move into the neutral point. At that moment, all wars would stop. No, everybody would lay down their weapons. We would not see racial divides. The dark, the cabal, would stop because they're now safe. They're safe from us. They're scared of us. They're terrified of us. They're terrified of our irresponsibility toward one of our greatest gifts, which is our emotion. We would step in full responsibility. We would release them from their roles. If we all did that, the frequency fence would come down, the whole game would end, we would move on. Think about that. The reason we're still here, the reason we're struggling with this TDA thing, is because there's still so many people thinking about, well, it's the cabal, they did this to us, they did that to us. No, they took your value and they invested in your value. And they're letting you walk out of this game if you can figure out how to do it with billions, basically, trillions. It's infinite. It's infinite to the point that it's, like you said, it's like a bottomless well. No matter how many times you put your bucket in, it's always going to come up full. No matter how much you pour out of it and you put it back in, it's always going to come up full. Because that's the neutral point. It's the point of, it's synonymous with the number 9. It's synonymous with the null zone, where everything is returned to raw energy and then can be taken back out and turn into anything you want. So you're dipping into an infinite source of raw energy. That's what the TDA account is. And that's how you know you're at the end of the game, because we don't create those until the end of the game. Not to the end of the game. So we're right there. So if we had 100 people on this call who could get into that neutral point, who could figure that out, do you realize how powerful that would be in catapulting this thing with Heather? And she'd be out of there in no time. This deal would be finished. Because we don't take that, it doesn't take that many people at that level of consciousness, that frequency. And by the way, that's the frequency that alters DNA, by the way, from carbon to crystalline, recompiles it. It would only take a relative handful of people. Just a thought.
Powerful thought.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it's a very powerful thought, and I wanted to add that that's why I had, the nudge to let everybody play in the 500 people of chaos. Actually, that was a perfect metaphor for what's going on right now, for all the different, people. Some people can hear, they know what's going on, they can't get things to work. And what was nice on that was, with the 500 plus people, the overwhelming sentiment was, well, we're just going to stay until this works. And we know what we want, and we're going to hold that positive charge and expansive charge, and only a few were frustrated. So I think that's a good example of how far we've come you know, just in a short little time. And there's a lot of energy. We're riding a big wave right this minute. The whole Emerald Gateway from July 21st through August 28th, and there is no coincidence, well, there aren't coincidences anyways, but there is no coincidence that all of this with Randy and Heather and everything got into full swing just before the 21st of July, so that all these energies and people are finding out these things and learning things that they never knew existed or had no idea. So that we're all in that swing. And with the total eclipse on Monday, you don't have to be in the direct path to see it, because you're going to be a little busy as it's occurring, because that's the point where there's the confluence, or the trine that a lot of people refer to it as, where you have the matter and antimatter, or the physical and non-physical. You can hold it in different ways, that, you know, language, and speak about it. And then that third part is the birth or the creation. So it's the 0 point, but it's where if you want to use the terms, your higher self, and so BZ, my higher self, and BZ here, that has my hand on my dog's head, blend completely in the physical aspect. And all of those things it's a new being, in essence, really is created, because it combines all of that.
That's beautiful.
Yes, and I'm so glad that we did make it to this space, and all of you persevered, because this information is probably the most vital information we're giving out. As far as I'm concerned, this is the most important aspect for all of us to understand, understand, overstand, and embody. It's really, really important for us to integrate within us our true value. Our true value is our ability to integrate. You know, the TDA accounts are just reflections of that. You know, what you know, Heather once told me, she says, you know, the whole reason about the whole gold and silver and precious metals, she says, it was never about gold. It was never about money. It was never about coinage. It was never about any of that. As long as you have value, place value outside of yourself, someone could steal it, someone can hoard it, someone can confiscate it, abduct it. But when the value is within you, when the value is stored within your being, no one can steal that. No one can hoard that. No one can, you know, abduct it or hold it hostage. And in order for us to actually be, we must understand ourselves, our own being, and our own value, our true value. And it lies within you. It lies within you, each and every one of us. And like Jalila said, it doesn't take but a handful of us to end this game. So let's do that. Let's do that. For those who understand my words, who have reached that point of neutrality, and you know who you are. You've been through all of the shit. You're the ones that have, you know, been through all of it. And if you're on this call, more than likely you're one of those people. Or if you're listening to this call, more than likely you're one of those people, because like attracts like. You cannot get to this call and hear this information if you're not ready for it. Because if you're not ready for it, it will sound like nonsense to you. And that's okay. That's okay. You know, but for those of you who do get it, it's time for us to all come together and work in a coordinated effort.
And I want to add to that, Bob, that if you're on this call and you're thinking, I want this to be true, don't really get it, you can change in an instant. You don't have to go study UCC. You don't have to know the history of how we got here. You don't have to know about the galactic wars or the this or the that or the blah, 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 blah. It's nice. You want to research it, great. There's lots of information out there, and you don't need to know any of that. You can catch up. You can go from zero of not knowing to the whole totality of it because it's within you in an instant. So you don't have to take any time to catch up. And if you're listening to this recording after the recording, you can make that quantum jump right then and there. There's no time that needs to be taken. In fact, when you're standing near or experiencing anyone who is already at that point, whether it's right next to you and you can touch them, whether it's in Skype or on the phone or any place that you can think of, just being within their resonant field will shift your DNA because the being you, gave permission. That was part of the design, that whoever was waking up when they got that, their field would interact with your field and send those signals to alter your essence, your DNA, all of your codes to wake up. What happens a lot of times, though, is for some reason, I don't understand it myself, but people fight that light bulb, literally the inner light going on within them, and kind of hit the snooze alarm. The other thing I wanted to say is that when you're talking about the value, Bob, what I feel a lot of people thinking, well, do I have to do this, or what if I'm handicapped, whatever it is, it's intrinsic. It is within you just by purely being you. Look at your hands, look at your body. You don't have to do anything because you're already amazing. You can't not have an account that never runs, if you're talking about the financial aspect, that never runs out of money. You can't not. No matter how much you try to make it go away, you can't. Because it's direct from source. It's direct from original. It's who and what you are. You can deny it. You can ignore it. And one other thing I think is really important for some people who are on this call right this moment and who will be listening to it when they say, well, but give me the recipe for the TDA. We can give you the most perfect recipe. Here's the great number. Here's all the steps you do. It's as simple as you could be. And it will not work for you if you have not stepped into the truth of who you are. It simply will not work because the decoding of the construct, the decoding of what we're talking to you about, the decoding of how to use your TDA accounts, those are all kind of coding within this amnesia within the game that we had. And the decoding of that false construct is part of your mission. So a recipe won't work if you're not taking the journey yourself to go that, to tune into that, and to realize that.
May I give them one thing that might help them? We were given a way to decrypt the DNA, the 12 strands, the other 10 strands. It's the same one that connects to what you're talking about, BZ, the decoding for the TDAs. Is called, and it activates the thymus at the higher level, and it gives you an orgasmic release. When you achieve compassion, like you guys did the other night on the call, you had that feeling of bliss and gratitude and appreciation. It was like it can be so intense that it's like an orgasm. You can't stand it. It's so good. You just get giddy with it. All right. And that's when you have activated your thymus at the higher level, because all your endocrine glands have a multidimensional job to do. You just don't know how to tap into that. But by using them at that level, that's what recompiles the DNA. So they had me write down what they call the formula of compassion. And it's 9 steps that you go through so that anytime you get into a situation where you're feeling polarity, where you're feeling the victim, you can use this formula and work through it and come back to your God status, your creator God. I'm the creator of this thing. And that will help you with, you know, your TDAs and anything that you're doing, because it's the encoding that gets you out of the matrix. It's like it takes you outside the matrix because it's 9th dimensional. It's very high dimensional. And you can find it on the Nibram Council website. It is free. Go in there, download it. It's been translated into several languages. You can find it, I think, right from the homepage, What is Compassion? And it's right there. So there's your tool to use. And dealing with the TDAs or anything else, and it's coded properly for this, which is interesting.
Perfect. We are the main ingredient of this whole recipe. So, you know, if just like Jalila and BZ and many others have spoken about in the past, it really is. You can't fake this. You can't fake compassion. You either have it or...
And you can't fake your way out of the matrix either. No, you can't fake your way out.
You cannot fake your way out. And a lot of it really has to depend. It really depends on how you're perceiving your life, how you're perceiving yourself, how you're perceiving the controllers. You know, are you perceiving yourself as a victim? And a lot of times we do that. We don't even realize that we're doing it. You know, how are you perceiving yourself? Start asking those types of questions, and you will make more progress faster than any type of meditation or anything like that. It just requires a little level or a higher level of awareness of what you're truly feeling, and honesty, transparency with yourself. It's important for all of us to do that, you know? And hey, if you're angry at the controllers, I'm not saying that you shouldn't get angry. It's part of the awakening process, you know, and can be quite useful in getting people off the fence, so to speak, and catapulting them forward. So I'm not judging anyone for being angry, but go through it. You know, go through that. Go through those emotions. Learn how to deal with them, integrate them, clear them out of your field, back to zero, back to that neutral point that we're all talking about. And that is where you will find what the scriptures call the peace of mind that excels all thought. And when you're in that space, nothing can touch you. Nothing can touch you. I have nothing more to share unless BZ and Jalila.
Well, I just wanted to follow on that one point that you just talked about, Bob, that you know, what Heather and Randy are you could say going through right now, you could say doing right now, you can characterize it in a lot of ways. And they're playing amazing roles, and they're doing exactly what they agreed to do. But I think it's very important, and I can hear Heather chuckling, going, yeah, tell them. It's very important that we don't come up with a savior meme around that. Heather is not saving anyone. Heather is playing her role, and she's doing a beautiful job doing it. And it's really important for people to understand that you, whoever you are, that you're looking to point at yourself and say, me, I'm the you that you're talking about, that you're doing your role as well. So whatever that is, You are essential to what is unfolding right now. And if you have a knowing or a sense or being nudged to do a specific thing, if you're feeling moved to do something and you're not doing it, you're not getting off the dime to follow your internal guidance, not somebody telling you something to do something, but your own internal guidance, and you're not doing it, then you're not playing the role that you agreed to play. And that's something you've got to, figure out why within yourself. But when you look at something like Heather and what she's doing, you say, oh, she's amazing and she's saving, the world and all that kind of stuff. Point the finger back at you that you were pointing at Heather and say the same thing about yourself. And then do what you feel moved to do. And we will get to where we want to go in a blink of an eye.
In the blink of an eye. That phrase.
Mm-hmm.
BZ?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you want to add any closing remarks? Or?
Yeah, I do. I think it's really important to spend just a few minutes for everybody to do what it works for them to get into a place of, Jalila talked about, that and I'll put some other words on it, your happy dance. Something is, you can see something unfolding, you can see something coming down, whatever it is, if it's, a puppy or something you've worked for, whatever it is, that's so exciting. You can feel it, you can touch it, you can taste it, you've got that, you're just excited. I'm getting excited just thinking about what that does for me. And it makes you giddy, it makes you happy, it makes you excited, and all of these different colors are swirling in and all these possibilities are coming in. And that's what I'd like everybody on this call right this minute physically and everybody listening to come into that space, to do whatever you need to do, whatever it means to you, into that space and hold that giddiness, hold that expansion, hold that absolutely cosmic, orgasmic deliciousness of amazing potential and possibility and actual fact that you're feeling and sensing and being, and expand that and ride that wave. And whatever comes to you to do the rest of tonight, wherever you are on the planet, and tomorrow until the eclipse happens, ride that as a wave all the way through that, because a huge shift is happening, a huge event is happening, a huge veil is unlifting, whatever metaphor, whatever phraseology you want to use about it is occurring. And by getting in that space and holding that space, and if you pop out of that space, we'll just go back into it. No matter what you're doing, do that, and you will affect everyone around you with that, and you will affect all of this. And Heather, to go back to what Heather said, this is the shortcut. And Jalila mentioned it and Bob mentioned it as well. Heather said this is the shortcut to where we want to go. This is the shortcut to not only a resolution on the purported cases with Heather and Randy and unfettered access and implementation on your TDAs and all of it. And those are just the snowflakes on the iceberg, just a tiny bit. This is the shortcut to all of that. So play in that, feel that, experience it, and put more deliciousness on top of it, and just ride that all the way through the middle of the day on the 21st, wherever you are on the planet.
In the next couple weeks, in the next coming weeks, we're going to be releasing some information, especially about the IM documents and the filings, so that everybody gets for those of you who are familiar with the One People's Public Trust filings, it'll be a really nice refresher. For those of you who are new, it will be very, very interesting and very, hopefully, enlightening as to the nature of what each document means and how each step and each part represents an aspect of us stepping out of the matrix. And all of us we will get out. This game is going to end. It's ending now. You know, there's lots of ways that we can end it. But right now, let's take that shortcut. For those of us that can, let's take that shortcut, that optimum route, because that is where we want to be. That's where all of us want to get to, and we can do it. We have everything we need. We just need to execute it. So please stay tuned. Do not give up hope. Keep being and doing as you are. And thank you, all of you, for what you've done and the information that you're sharing, and whatever it is that you feel to do in order to support all of this, please do so in your own unique, creative, imaginative ways, like I've seen you do so many times in the past.
And one last thing is, when people think about, just because I've seen this a lot, when people think about Heather and the love that flows and the gratitude that flows and the amazement that flows and all of the fun deliciousness that flows, put your name on that person you're putting out in front of you that you're calling Heather. Put your name and your being on that, and send that same love and gratitude to you. And that's a shortcut.
And before we part, I would like to thank Jalila and BZ for your participation and putting all of this together and creating this template for all of us to join together. Because the more that we do this, the more that we share and we come together. I mean, you really, for those of you who understand and feel or see energy, when we come together like this, you cannot measure how powerful that is. And there's a reason why the first call was hacked. There's a reason why they didn't want us to all come together this way. So I'm glad we were able to have this call. And please, as we post it, please do share it. And let's get this done. It's time. We can do this very quickly. Like Jalila said, in the blink of an eye. I'm going to stop recording now, unless somebody else wants to chat in.
I just want to say I love you all, and let's do this.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.